Welcome to the Women in Transport podcast. I'm your host, Shireen Ali Khan, and this is season 2, where we are covering everything intersectionality. We're looking at the layers that make us who we are. We're looking at privilege, looking at oppression, and really what makes us human. Okay, so welcome to the Women in Transport podcast. This time around, I am speaking to Magdalena Nowak, who has a really inspirational story and lots to share about her journey through not only the transport sector, but also through healthcare as well. And with all the podcast episodes, we focus on intersectionality and really all the layers that make us human beings. And so I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Magdalena and just finding out about her journey, a little bit more about herself. So with that, Magdalena, over to you. Please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then I'll throw some lovely questions your way.
Thank you, Shireen. My name is Magdalena. I'm working for Southwestern Railway as an operations trainer. I deliver guards courses as well as deliver traction training for training guards. 6 years ago, I started with Southwestern Railway as a commercial guard at Farnham Depot, and I developed into a guards manager role. I spent 3 years at Waterloo managing guards there. And at the moment, I'm on secondment as operations trainer at Network Rail Centre in Basingstoke.
Wonderful, lots there. Tell me a little bit about your early life, please.
Yes, I was born in one of the biggest city in Poland. I grew up between 80 and 99, still in the communistic Poland. So I still, I'm a proud Pole who can say that I experienced this era and very important part of the history of Poland, and that's how I was kind of molded with who I am now. And I think this as well influenced my my decision making for the future and being courageous person in general. So for 9 years, I was striving for freedom, and I love dreaming about traveling to the Western countries, and I think that this was kind of driving me for the future experiences. I grew up as a single child. After when I was 5, my parents divorced, and unfortunately, in Poland, government does not support single mothers. So we had to move to my grandparents, and that's again influenced me in the form of being kind of moved from one place to another and not having this in general support for my mom, who was working full time as well. And then when I was around 7, my mom met my stepdad. And that's what's the second part of the journey started. We moved to my stepdad. When I was 17, 1997, Poland experienced huge flood. About 3/4 of country was flooded. And this year we lost our house and become homeless. So our house wasn't anymore habitable. So we were living in the tent. And as well, it's quite personal journey. So my stepdad become drinking quite a lot of alcohol, where had influence as well in the relationship of my parents. Again, being 17, a teenager, losing all my clothes, all my belongings, personal belongings as well. Having to ask for support of my friends who were the same age, and going into the journey of spending 2 weeks somewhere where we have to share one room and a very personal one bucket somewhere in the corner. So even though thinking that it was for me not long time ago, because I always think that being 17, it's a big stage in your life. And then you have these embarrassing moments, but now I can laugh about it, and I'm proud of it that, being resilient and experience this type of things. Very important as well, like I mentioned, communist time, as well as Poland being a very Catholic country. My mom went to church to ask for help, because that's only support at the time. people could get. They were refused help because they were not married. They were partners, and they were told that they're living in the scene. So we were not entitled to any accommodation at the time. And I think that as well, being a very young person influenced my look out on the country, and thinking that more help we receive from outside, like in German Red Cross, Norway, Denmark, and countries like that. And then I studied hotel and tourism management, and that's where my passion for traveling, passion for freedom of movement started. And I left country when I was 22, living in different countries, and finally in 2006 settled in UK.
Wow, there's just so much there, and you really kind of surmised it a little bit when you said around the next part of your life wanting that freedom of movement. And I feel from what you're saying, it's just you've just been through so much displacement and so much in your formative years, where you mentioned around being 5, and that's when your parents split, and being 7 when you had your stepfather enter your life, and being 17 and then having to go through the flood. Is almost like perhaps not a period where it's been just chilled and relaxed and stable. These are quite big things at a really young age that have happened to you. And I can really understand why then, when you were a little bit older, you thought, well, I really want to control some of that movement, and do some stuff around traveling. So tell me a little bit about the traveling. So you were 21, I think, weren't you, when you left Poland?
Yes. So it reminds me, because obviously when we got this freedom finally in 1989, and then for the teenagers, we were always, me and my friends, dreaming about going abroad. And when I was 21, 22, I decided that I want to move to a different country, try get some adventure. And remember to buying this, because the flying tickets were very expensive. And me and my friend got the coach from Poland, and we spent 36 hours on the coach to Madrid. Wow. And when we talk about this now, and people are thinking, oh my God, we get bored, and there's nothing to do for 5 hours on the plane. We're thinking, well, we were 36 hours, what an adventure it was. But we were so excited, we're leaving, we're getting this, independence. And I think that's, again, part of the traveling, that I love it. I can be on the bus. I'm not going to complain. For me, it's adventure, and yeah, that's the journey I remember. And yes, I spent a year in Madrid, working and living there. Again, huge lesson. I had to learn the language. At the time, I was, communicating in Spanish very well. Met lots of amazing people. Then moved to living for a bit in Portugal, then Holland. And then before came to UK, I lived in Cyprus for nearly a year as well. So lots of cultures, lots of adventures and experiences lead me to settle, to arrive at UK and settle here.
Wow. So tell me, what made you think that the UK is the next best step? Because actually what you've described is some really amazing countries and some really, big experiences that you've had, and not to mention the warmth that would have come from living in those countries, certainly. But what made you think actually the UK is where I want to be? Because you've clearly settled here.
Yes, like I mentioned before, I don't have siblings. I'm only one person. So my friends were very important at the time, especially my friend, which we experienced the flooding together. We grew up on the same street. She moved early, and she's still working and living very closely. She works as a physiotherapist in a hospital. She settled in UK, and for me it was this getting to 26 years old, thinking, well, I have to find a place where I can start settling and thinking about the career. I wanted to have somebody close to me, and England was the choice, because I treat her as a sister. So I settled in UK and start looking for jobs. Was being an immigrant, kind of with a limitation of first of course the confidence of not aiming for quite high up. So I started with cleaning jobs. We had like 3 cleaning jobs a day, and progress into nursing home. Again, very much biased, but yeah, that's very much immigrant's job, where you start in nursing home, and then that's where my dream started to work for NHS.
Again, really big stuff, and it sounds like you just love getting stuck in and actually really doing stuff. You sound like a real doer. And you mentioned around the love for the NHS and wanting to work in that sector. Tell me about that part of your life, because when we've spoken before, it sounds really amazing. Like you've done some really cool stuff. So
Mhm.
I'd love to hear more about your time in the NHS and just some of the experiences, the why you got there, but also the experiences that you
Mhm.
had.
I think I always had a nature of empathy and caring in me. So I think that's the choice I made to work in NHS. So my first job in NHS was working for a bowel cancer screening program, where I was working on the helpline as well as checking the testing lab, and it was exciting. It was more for me. I wanted to learn more about human anatomy and biology and everything else. And then I apply for a role in surgical ward in Royal Surrey Hospital in Guildford. And I remember the day when I got the job, and I had to prepare for proper interview, and being English my second language, and I really put a huge effort into researching, into reading, and I think it stuck with me that I always have to be very prepared and something getting to aiming for this perfection. But it was the best day of my life at the time, getting the job in hospital. I was so proud, and my mom was proud, my friends. And I spent there, I met amazing people where I'm still friends with. We built huge connections. I think when you work in hospital, you experience so much together, especially long shifts, 12-hour shifts. And I spent there 10 years, and it was difficult to leave, to make decision in the end. But, working in oncology wards, nursing in A&E, and then the last 3 years I spent in occupational health supporting a member of staff. It's incredible experience, and I think I compare it to one of the best time in my life in UK.
Mm. It sounds like just what you just described there, that you were seeing different things every day, having to learn new things. You mentioned about language, the fact that you've traveled, you've had to learn lots of different languages, you've had to adapt to different locations. And actually, from what you've just described from your early years, there's that real sense of adapting to change. And maybe some of it you have control over the change, and some of it the change is put upon you. But how do you feel that maybe your early life has really informed the decisions that you've made now, be they personal, but be they professional?
I think definitely resilience. When I look at the things, I don't feel sorry for myself. I try to think about challenges, that there's always something on another side that you learn from. And I try to not used to things, which I have as well, because it's, you can lose it very quickly. The next day is another day. Older I'm getting, I do worry more. And I think it comes with the age. You don't have that much courage. But to be honest, now I think when we have this conversation, I'm looking back, and it's like, wait a minute, I do have a courage, because I made a huge change in the being a middle-aged woman, and when we're going to get to the biggest change in my life, in the career. But background, definitely everything what I experience, I take as my advantage. I kind of, like I said, I never ever complain, and I think not only where I come from and where I had to be, I try to share things that it's good to go to different countries, experience, and as well I'm very comfortable with making friends with people different from different countries, different accents, different, and I think the connections you make. I think we as immigrants, I think we making connections closer, because we kind of feel that we have something in common.
Yeah.
It's more difficult is to build these connections with Brits here. But I'm not saying it's difficult, but it's easy definitely to build the relationships. And I think hospital, the NHS, we do have a lot of immigrants from different countries, and that's I think as well how I learned to build these relationships.
Hello, I'm Sonia Byers, Chief Exec of Women in Transport, and you're listening to the Women in Transport podcast. I'm proud of the work we're doing together to create a safe space for different women working in transport to share their stories. You can find details on how to join the conversation in the episode show notes.
how important is community for you and building networks, be they, you know, across the sectors that you've worked in, but how important are they to you?
I been for 10 years in hospital. Obviously, working nursing is mainly female dominated industry. And then you're looking at now in the industry, transplant industry I'm in, it's more male dominated, but I still very much similarity of having this kind of, we call it a railway family or NHS family, that you're connected by experiences and you know, have the banter as well. And I think the very similarity of support, of possibility of sharing the experiences and some of the personal life as well, having a laugh even in difficult times, and finding as well people who support you, mentors. It's very important that you have one person is enough. If you don't have the support, you don't have somebody to turn to and just, you know, speak when you have a bad day. It's very, very difficult. I think, however hard work it is, environment, but if you don't have a people supporting you, have to have a laugh, have a conversation. It will be a tough time in every place of work, really.
Yeah, it's lonely, isn't it? If you just haven't got that outlet.
Mm.
Absolutely. This brings us really nicely onto the next big life change that you had, which is what you're doing now. So tell us, how did you transition from being in healthcare, doing some really impactful work there, clearly enjoyable and clearly quite fast paced and quite intense for what you described? What made you think, all right, I'll go to transport now?
So one day I was sitting on the train and because I love going to London, so I was spending nearly every weekend going for art exhibition and different events to London. And I was sitting on the train thinking, you know, what can I do with my life at the time? You know, I was 38. You get into the stage of probably middle life crisis, what to do, you know, what is the next stop, next challenge. And there was a guard passing by. I'm thinking, oh well, what's you know, what type of job it is, what is. And I start researching. I come back and found a website for a train operator, and I applied for 3 different roles at the time, and I thought I would just want to get in, and I got, you know, invited for all the interviews, and I choose the guards position at Farnham, guards role, and that's where the new adventure started. But I was looking for a challenge. I wanted to leave the comfort zone. I wanted to prove my colleagues, which are still friends, we talk about that they didn't have a courage. They want to change, but they don't have a courage. And I thought, I don't have a kids, family. I'm in the good position of taking the risk, and I did it.
I just love the idea of you being sat on the train going, yeah, all right, I'll just move to transport now.
Yeah.
And it just really is testament to you. You are a real role model on change can be good. And I think that risk that you mentioned as well, and I completely appreciate that you're aware that you didn't have maybe dependence at that stage, but it's still a risk to say, you know, to get a step out of your comfort zone, to be in a sector for 10 years and you kind of know the rules and what you're doing. There's still a massive risk associated with it. But the fact that you have highlighted that you wanted a new challenge and you wanted something to push you perhaps a bit further, you know, really, really great steps there. So tell us about that journey. So you've gone for the job, you've taken the job, and then what does the last few years look like for you?
So it was very hard, and I still share the story with all the trainee guards, and especially girls. At the moment, I have a group of 12, or I have 3 girls, and I'm very always honest and open that I struggle. When I wasn't sitting in this course for the first 8 weeks, I felt like an idiot, because you come from something you know so much, and you feel like you achieve something. You have a knowledge, quite a good knowledge over 10 years you built up, and it was all what you knew. And here I'm sitting in the classroom and I'm surrounded by people. They probably, as a bias, you know, the Polish girl, and sometimes I was laughing and they thinking, how the hell she got this job? Because it was for me, I felt like I have no idea what I'm doing. The different terminology, very specific for transport. And I just could not memorize things. I could not get things. And I had to learn again how to teach myself and look at things differently, because obviously you have a lot of technological stuff, and and it was hard. And that's why I look back at my journey now, where I am, and talking to you now, sharing my experiences and teaching the class now, where I was sitting before, thinking I'm not going to be able to do it. And I had really hard time, and I did cry a few nights. And I was embarrassing even to tell my friends that I made this risky decision, put everything on one card, and now I'm scared. I was scared that I'm not going to pass the course, and I'm not going to have a job. I didn't know if I have any way of coming back to my previous job. So it was scary, thinking that later, when I start getting confident and apply for where my journey started from women development program. There was a first women development program started by my company, and I applied, and my manager at the time supported me, and I start meeting building this network with other women who gave me confidence, and the coaches. And that's as well where I started to apply. I applied for apprenticeship. Again, had a help of manager supporting me, and then the great teacher and the college. And it took me for a journey of improvement, become a manager and the trainer now. So yeah.
That's huge, Magdalena. I want to step back a second, because you've gone from feeling, actually, I don't know if this is quite right, I've gone into this new sector, I'm not quite getting it, to building the networks. What was that moment in between where you thought, I could either give up or I could not give up? What did that moment look like to you?
Yeah, so it just came to me because I had in the classroom, I have another girl, and she was as well, she was from a different Eastern European country. And I couldn't blame my nationality or that English is not my language. I had no right to do it because she was in the same position, and her performance, her scores on the tests were amazing. So I thought, oh my God, I cannot compare it now to men, say, oh, they are men, they're understanding better. I have this girl who's in the same situation, and I have to, I cannot feel sorry for myself. I cannot justify things. And I just sat and studied hard. I asked for help. I had the colleagues in the classroom just asking. I was honest. I struggle. Can you help me to? And I had an amazing group. But I think that was very important, because if I didn't have her, I probably start blaming. Oh, I'm a woman. English is not my second language. I just very manly industry. I cannot get it. But because I didn't have that, I have her to look up to, because she was getting everything. And I'm like, oh my God. And I think thanks to her as well, I build up as like, come on, don't feel sorry for yourself. We are on the same journey. And I thought, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that's brilliant, because it sounds like you are somebody who's very self-aware, and it sounds like there's a phrase that says you cannot be what you cannot see, and the fact that you had someone in front of you who was doing it made you think, well, actually, bloody hell, I can do it as well. So
Yeah.
I really love that you kind of looked inward to look outward, where yeah, absolutely, it is easy to kind of look at our surroundings and say that's the reason why, and you'd have a lot of reasons to think that, but actually in that moment, how kind of brave of you to look around and say, well, actually, if other people are doing it, I can as well. And you've then catapulted to now teaching the stuff that you were sat in the room thinking, I'm not quite sure about this. You're now delivering that to other people. What made you go for that position to now be the trainer?
Now it's over a year. I'm seconded now, but when I started, I still thought like that must be some kind of mistake. There's some kind of weird way about it, how that's happened, because I knew that there was a lot of experienced people going for this role, and I thought, obviously I prepared for interview, and I thought, I have advantages of going for apprenticeship, and got over 5 years where I was, and I thought, okay, I have experience, I have knowledge, being a guards manager. I gained the qualification to be assessor and investigative accidents and so on. So I had knowledge, but still, I compete with a lot of people for this job role, and it makes me so proud of being there, and working along the colleagues who were teaching me and training with 20 years of experience and everyday learning from them. It's incredible privilege. And later I found out that I'm the first woman teaching the courses for the last 15 years.
Wow, that's huge.
Yes, and when I started, I think a few months after, there was a trainer starting, the female trainer starting teaching the drivers as well. So now it's two of us, two female among all the male colleagues in the school delivering the drivers and guards courses. It's quite a huge achievement, and when you're looking at it this way. But yeah, I to be honest, I still can't believe. So I'm very happy. Yeah.
No, I love it. All these kind of pinch me moments. I think that's brilliant. I would be remiss if I didn't poke you and ask you. You've been nominated for an award, Magdalena. Can you tell me a bit about this, please?
Yes. So first, I would say that I can say proudly that I'm a finalist of Every Woman Transport and Logistic Awards, which the winner is going to be announced in 27th of June. I nominate myself, I want to say, and there's another thing which I want to give a message to all the girls who are sitting there thinking, I'm doing so much, and thinking, well, nomination should come up with somebody who you want to feel appreciated. But I think I was waiting 3 years for, and for a long time, and you're thinking maybe there is a moment now. I feel courage that, because obviously you submit evidence, so it's not like you're just saying that you want to be a finalist. All the evidence accumulate what work I've done over 3 years during apprenticeship, and it was as well the courageous step for me to do it, because it's quite unusual. But Every Woman have giving this opportunity to women to nominate themselves, and I feel very proud, and yes, I'm looking forward to kind of celebrate with other women as well on the day and see what's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. We at Women Transport, we constantly tell people, keep your receipts, be your own advocate, and you're highlighting exactly that, which is, be your own voice, be your own role model sometimes if you need it, be your own advocate. Absolutely nominate yourself for stuff, because if you wait for people, it won't happen sometimes, because everyone's doing their own thing. And actually, if we wait for other people to speak to our achievements, then sometimes we might be waiting for a really long time. So absolutely. And the fact that you mentioned it's evidence-based, it's one of the phrases I overly use, is that it's not bragging if it's fact. And so if it's based on fact, then it's not you just saying, hey, look at me. You're like, oh, there's some actual evidence here. So, well done for nominating yourself. And we obviously wish you the best in that. And the fact that you said that you can't wait to celebrate with other women as well, again, kind of speaks to your real commitment and your real love of network and community and bringing people together. Magdalena, you mentioned a few things. So you mentioned around being resilient. You mentioned around you realized that you needed to be prepared in situations. You also mentioned around like change and adaptability. Tell me a little bit about some of these, these values that you have, or these kind of character traits that you realize that you do have. Tell me a little bit about the kind of these fundamentals here.
Yes, so resilience, I always consider myself, I have a British passport now, but I'm definitely, Polish. That's my culture, and I always come back to it. And I think I always love it that I think I don't have an accent. My British husband saying you definitely have very strong accent, and it's part of me. And the courage, I can compare myself to my colleagues. My colleagues comes from the same country or different countries, who are women who immigrate to UK, that they always pointing out that I have a courage. I do quite a lot of things, and I think when I'm taking the step back and thinking, well, I am doing quite a lot of things which normally people wouldn't do, and woman or not, that you need the courage and you need the resilience to make these changes in your life. As well, traveling and meeting lots of people, and then not working only in hospital and seeing sometimes the horrible thing affecting families, and as well working on the transport, very, very much similar things when you hearing about incidents of fatalities and so on, because the railway is unfortunately a slight part of this unfortunate incidents. But empathy towards people, respect as well, because in the railway, so you have leadership roles, you have the roles of operational roles, but as well you have the supportive roles, whereas you have a cleaners, you have people on the platform helping you. So we all kind of we are one community, and we should support each other. And I think the respect for all the roles, especially UK, where you have a very much culture of class system, which I was very foreign to, coming from Poland, where we don't have it. Where I was living in Spain, it's much you're making connection based on your interests and hobbies, not where you come from or where you live. And UK is very much interesting society about that, and I think a respect for everyone you work with, that's very important. I think I learned this as well, and I'm very much sensitive about that. So in my position of a trainer, I'm always telling people, please be respectful. It doesn't matter what people do, where they work. You count in different relationships. Please be respectful, be polite, treat everyone the same. So that's very important values for me.
Yeah, I love that you've leaned into that, and I know that you mentioned some of the stereotypes, some of the biases that were maybe thrown on you throughout your life, and you quite nicely kind of brought us to the realm of intersectionality, where you don't know what people are going through, you don't know their background, you don't know their life journeys, and some intersections are maybe a bit more overt because they're visible, but a lot of them are hidden, and you don't know, and you might present in a certain way, but actually when you speak to people you realize different things. What does intersectionality mean to you? Tell me a bit about some of the barriers and maybe some of the stereotypes that you've found throughout your career, and then I'd like to hear a bit more about how do you use your experiences to then help other people, and you've spoken about how you try to use your courage to help people. You've spoken about in the training where you actually really advocate for respect. I'd just love to hear a bit more about that side of you.
So to be honest, starting when I transformed from a person from healthcare industry with very much female orientated to male orientated industry, I think being a female was kind of the secondary. I think I'm more worried. I'm not saying that I experienced any type of being treated differently, that I had an accent or English was my second language, because it was me mentioning always these differences. And I think I encounter people supporting me. It's like, don't worry, especially London is so multicultural. So I was lucky in that matter. But I do observe that women of color, they do struggle at certain stages. And as a guards manager, I very much was promoting the self-belief and applying for apprenticeships. But me being a white woman, it's very much difficult being a person to look up to it. Yes, as a woman, yes. But with conversation, having a woman of color who want to develop themselves to leadership position, they do want the woman of color in the leadership position. And I think, I cannot talk about their experiences and how they feel, because I'm not. I believe that I'm still, even though being immigrant, I'm still privileged being a white woman. So I cannot really talk about the experiences, but we definitely struggle, I think, with confidence of applying for leadership roles, even though there's more and more opportunities, and being in my company as well, of pushing it through and having this programs which encouraging and building up confidence with the minorities. It's more and more is that it does change, but I think from my position, I will be supporting women and always saying, what are the possibilities within the company, and just believe in yourself. And from my point of view, I that's what I can say.
Yeah, thank you. And I think what you're highlighting there is the importance of being allies. You could be your own role model, and you can be your own kind of representative, but also actually what's the kindness that we can offer other people. And you're right, we can't assume people's journeys. We can't say, it must be like this because this is what I've had to deal with, because no two humans are ever going to be the same. But the fact that you're creating those safe spaces, you're helping, you're pushing, your real love of networks and communities is really obvious, and it's really great to see that you're kind of pushing that out for other people as well. So Magdalena, tell me a bit now, what are your future goals? What's tomorrow looking like for you? And then I'd like to leave our listeners with some advice that you would offer, maybe your younger self, but certainly people who are maybe looking to change sector. But firstly, what does the future look like for you?
I have a goals, and I think I can share that my ultimate goal, and I think the proudest thing I could be, and show that that I can do it, because it's very much the train driver's role is very much, especially in the Polish mentality, it's very male role, and in the background, everything I do, I was aiming for a driver role, and only because I didn't tell people openly, because for me, I need to have a knowledge, I need to have a confidence to be the responsible person, and because it's not only driving a train, it's being responsible for the sometimes thousands of people behind you, and as for being confident that I can communicate the safety message and so on. So all this year, that's really the aim, and that's kind of, it's my dream, how passionate I am about that role. The second thing, definitely supporting women railway and all the possibilities and of development. When I was young, definitely tell myself, don't worry, things happen for a reason. So sometimes if one doors are closed, the other ones open. So be patient, that's something better coming your way. And I think don't be scared of a change. I think if you feel that something there for you, just take the chance and change it. Have a courage of changing, because we have only one life. And I think excitement, adventure of challenging and breaking boundaries, it's the best thing you can have. And I think the feeling in the end, how much you improve and develop yourself, and the message you can share with other women and young people, it's that's what I'm telling you guys. It's amazing feeling.
I love that. I feel like that's advice for me as well. So I'm listening thinking, okay, what boundaries can I break? Thank you, Magdalena, so much for really kind of leaning in and being quite vulnerable in some of your life experiences. I really hope our listeners, kind of understand where our life experiences can take us, but also we're not defined by them. And you mentioned before about not being a victim, but actually, how can we use some of those things to build us up? And you've done that. You've done that in kind of in leaps and bounds and tenfold. And you've worked a long time in two very different sectors, but also have quite similar things. You've worked amongst different community groups, amongst different stakeholders, and it feels like you've always been in a state of learning, in a state of change, and kind of finding out what's the next challenge. And so I hope you can be a train driver. I'm definitely going to drive on that train with you. You have to keep in touch, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what your next steps are and where your journey takes you. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to our listeners, and join us on the next episode of the Women in Transport podcast.
Thank you.